The Forgotten Inmates, Women at Rikers. Before we dive into this story, hit that subscribe button before it disappears like the truth on Rikers Island. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a story, it's a warning. The rain in the Bronx fell hard the night the officers found the abandoned sedan under the overpass. Headlights off, door cracked open, windshield smashed. Inside, the scattered belongings told a story no one wanted to write. A purse, a cracked phone still recording audio, and blood. Just enough to raise questions, not enough to answer them. The responding officers exchanged looks that said everything. The city had seen countless scenes like this. But this one was different, because the missing woman had vanished after calling 911, and the recording revealed she wasn't running from a stranger. She was running from someone she knew. Her name was Marisol Vega, a 27-year-old mother, part-time home health aide, and someone whose life had never been simple. Police canvassed the area for hours before following a trail of footsteps leading to the service road. Then to a drainage ditch. Then nothing. Silence swallowed the trail whole. By sunrise, the media had caught wind of the disappearance. But within a day, the story was drowned by bigger headlines, louder crises, and a city always moving. Marisol became another name added to a small folder on a detective's desk, marked pending. 2 weeks later, officers made an unexpected arrest. Not for her disappearance, but for something much stranger. A woman matching Marisol's description was spotted outside a corner store in East Harlem. Only she wasn't missing. She was fighting. Hard. When officers tried to detain her, she screamed a name over and over. He wasn't supposed to find me. But when she calmed down at the precinct, everything spiraled into a different direction. She wasn't the victim anymore. She was now the suspect. The store owner filed charges. An elderly woman claimed Marisol had shoved her. A passerby said she had thrown a bottle at a parked car. None of the allegations were violent felonies, but they stacked quickly, and her inability to post bail meant one thing. Marisol was going to Rikers Island. When the transport bus crossed the narrow bridge toward the jail, she stared out the window at the water. Dark, still, unwelcoming. The compound rose ahead like a forgotten fortress, a city within a city where time stalled and fear had no expiration date. Inside the Rose M. Singer Center, the women's facility, Marisol's intake was fast and cold. Metal detectors, paperwork, fingerprinting, a medical exam conducted with the kind of speed that suggested the staff had seen far too many broken women to be moved by one more. Any medical issues? A nurse asked without looking up. No, Marisol whispered. Any mental health conditions? A pause. Then, I don't know anymore. She was processed, handed a uniform, and assigned to a dorm where nearly 40 women shared a single unit filled with an endless electric buzz, voices, arguments, sobs, metal clanging, and the hum of fluorescent lights that never seemed to turn off. It didn't take long for her to notice the unspoken rules. Women grouped themselves by borough, by neighborhood, by who they knew on the outside. But there were others. Women who controlled the phones, the best bunks, and the flow of contraband. These weren't gang leaders in the traditional sense. They were survivors of the system, women who had learned to wield power in a place built to take it from them. On her first night, Marisol overheard whispers about a woman named Red. No one used her real name. She had been at Rikers longer than anyone could remember, cycling in and out, always returning with a reputation that somehow grew each time. She runs this place, someone told her. Staff don't bother her, inmates don't cross her, and if you're smart, you don't either. Marisol kept her head down, but fear doesn't hide well in a place like this. On her second day, she learned that someone had already discovered her truth, something she had hoped the system would bury. During lunch, a folded piece of paper slid across her tray. No name. No signature. Just 4 words scribbled in rushed handwriting. He knows you're here. Her hands shook. Her heart pounded. She scanned the room, expecting to see the face she feared most. Instead, she saw dozens of women eating, arguing, whispering, laughing, living their own battles. But someone had sent that message. Someone inside knew about the night she disappeared. Someone had information no inmate should have. By evening, as the cell block quieted under dim lights, Marisol sat on her bunk, staring at the concrete wall. She whispered to herself, "How did he find me? Who told him?" Then, just before lights out, an officer stopped at her door. "Vega," he said, "you have a visitor tomorrow morning." Visitors weren't unusual, but the list of people who knew she was here was short. Very short. "What's the name?" she asked. The officer looked down at the clipboard, squinted, then frowned. "There's no name listed." He walked away before she could respond. Marisol's breath caught in her throat. No name. No details. Just a time. Something was very wrong. And when she showed up to the visitor room the next morning, escorted by 2 officers instead of 1, she realized the truth. Someone had been waiting for her long before she ever arrived at Rikers Island. What she found in that room changed everything. The morning of the mysterious visit, Marisol sat in the small waiting area, hands resting on her lap, eyes fixed on the scratched plastic table in front of her. The visitor's booth was quiet, far too quiet for a weekday morning. Officers came and went through the far door, but none looked her way. Something felt off. 2 other women waited in the room, one humming to herself, the other bouncing her knee anxiously. But both were too wrapped in their own worries to notice the tension in Marisol's shoulders. Finally, an officer emerged from the side door. "Vega," he said. "Room 6. He didn't meet her eyes. That alone sent a chill down her spine. Room 6 was at the end of a long corridor, past rooms that usually held visiting families. But this room was different. It wasn't part of the public area at all. Instead of chairs and a plexiglass window, the door opened to a small interview room used for private conversations, legal meetings, or something else. Inside, a man in a dark suit sat with a notebook closed on the table in front of him. He looked up with a calm, controlled smile. "Ms. Vega," he said, "please have a seat." Marisol sat slowly, keeping her hands clasped. "You're not my lawyer." "No," the man said. "I'm here about the night you disappeared." Her chest tightened. I didn't disappear." "That's interesting," he said casually. "Because the recording left behind in your car says otherwise." Panic. Running. A struggle. Then the sound of a second car door slamming. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. "Who are you?" she whispered. The man leaned back. "Someone who's been following your case." Case. The word felt heavy, foreign. She wasn't sure if she should be relieved or terrified. "Look," Marisol said carefully. "I told the officers what happened. I told them everything." "You told them what you were comfortable saying," the man interrupted. "But the truth is deeper than that, isn't it?" He opened the notebook, revealing a printed photograph. The moment she saw it, her breath left her body. It was her, standing outside the store the night she was arrested, frozen in mid-scream. Behind her, blurred but unmistakable, was a figure stepping out of a dark SUV, a figure she had run from for months. Her ex-partner, the one she had reported, the one who had threatened her, the one she believed had finally found her that night under the overpass. The man in the suit studied her expression. "He followed you, Ms. Vega. You know that. But you also know something else happened that night. Something you haven't told anyone." She felt the walls closing in around her. Not physically, but in a way that made it impossible to breathe. "How did you get that picture?" she asked. "A camera across the street caught it," he replied. "But no one else pulled the footage. Not the police. Not the store owner. Only someone who wanted to find you." His gaze sharpened. "I'm trying to understand why." Marisol lowered her eyes. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "I thought coming here would keep me safe." "Rikers doesn't protect people," he said softly. "It hides them." He closed his notebook. "I'm going to ask you one question, Ms. Vega, and I need the truth." She looked up. "What happened between the recording in your car and the moment you were arrested?" Her hands trembled. She tried to steady them under the table. "I ran," she whispered. "I ran to the only place I knew he wouldn't follow. Somewhere crowded. Somewhere with cameras. The store. And then..." Tears gathered in her eyes. "I didn't attack anyone. I swear I didn't. I was trying to get away. But something else happened. Something you're still not saying. Marisol froze. Because there was one detail she hadn't told the police. One moment she'd buried so deeply she could barely replay it in her mind. She swallowed hard. There was a second person, she whispered. The man sat still. He wasn't alone, she continued. Another person was in the SUV. The man in the suit nodded slowly. That's what I needed. He stood up, closed his notebook, and walked toward the door. Wait, she said, panic rising. Who sent you? What do I do now? He paused with his hand on the doorknob. Be careful, he said. Because someone else knows you're here. And they reached out before I did. Marisol blinked. Who? He opened the door just enough to leave. Ask the woman they call Red, he said. She's the one who requested this meeting. The door closed behind him with a metallic click. Marisol sat frozen. Red had requested the meeting? Red, the inmate everyone avoided? Red, who somehow knew everything happening on the island. When the officers came to escort her back to the dorm, Marisol's mind raced. Every step echoed with a single realization. If Red had arranged that meeting, then the message she received wasn't a warning. It was a summons. And when she returned to the dorm, Red was sitting on her bunk, waiting for her, calm, composed, and smiling like she already knew every secret Marisol had tried to bury. Red patted the empty space beside her. We need to talk, she said. Because your past just walked through our gates, and it's not leaving without you. Red didn't speak right away. She just stared at Marisol with the kind of quiet focus that made the air feel thick. The dorm was unusually calm. Women playing cards, one braiding another's hair, an officer pacing lazily by the door. Nothing about the room suggested danger. But Marisol's instincts were screaming anyway. Sit, Red said again, gently tapping a spot on the bunk. Marisol sat, spine tight, hands pressed between her knees. Red studied her face, her eyes sharp but not unkind. You look like someone who just found out the truth ain't as buried as she hoped. Marisol swallowed. You requested that meeting? Red nodded. I did. And you should thank me. That man in the suit? You needed to hear what he had to say. Marisol blinked. You knew he was coming? Red leaned back against the wall, the mattress squeaking under her weight. People forget this place has more eyes and ears than the city outside. Officers talk. Lawyers talk. Visitors talk. And inmates, we hear everything they don't mean to say. She tilted her head. Word travels fast when someone on the outside starts asking about you. Marisol's chest tightened. Why would anyone ask about me? I didn't do anything. You ran, Red said plainly. You ran from someone who wasn't ready to let you go. And now he's looking. Marisol's breath trembled. She glanced at the floor, but Red nudged her gently with her elbow. Look at me. She did. You're not the only woman in here who came running from something, Red said. But you might be the only one whose past is bold enough to show up at the front gate. Marisol winced. The man in the suit said he wasn't the only one who contacted the jail. Red nodded once. That's right. Someone else called before him. Who? Marisol whispered. Red took a long breath, eyes fixed on her. The man you told the police about. The one you said threatened you. Everything inside Marisol went cold. Red continued. He called asking if you were cooperating with anyone. Asking whether you had visitors. Whether your case was being reopened. Marisol felt her hands shaking. Red reached out and placed her palm gently over Marisol's. You're safe for the moment. But only for the moment. A silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. Then Red shifted her posture, voice quieter now, almost soft. There's something you're not telling them, she said. Something about that night. Marisol's throat tightened painfully. What makes you say that? Because you're too scared for this to be just about a bad breakup, Red replied. And because you flinched when the suit mentioned the second figure. Marisol's breath caught. She looked around the dorm, the peeling paint, the flickering ceiling lights, the distant hum of voices drifting from the hallway. She had been trying to outrun the memory since the moment she stepped into the store that night, breathless and terrified. But hiding it hadn't protected her. Not out there. Not in here. She looked back at Red, who was waiting patiently. There was someone else in the SUV, Marisol whispered. Someone who was helping him. Red didn't react. No surprise, no shock. Just slow, knowing acceptance. Who? She asked. I don't know, Marisol said. I never saw their face. But they grabbed me before he did. They pushed me. Tried to pull me toward the car. And then, Red pressed. Marisol closed her eyes, replaying it in her mind. I shoved them off and ran. I got into the store. The owner yelled at me for slamming the door, and then everything happened so fast. She opened her eyes again. I told the police I slipped on the floor and knocked into the display. I didn't tell them I was shoved. Red exhaled through her nose. That's the piece that matters. That's why the suit is here. That's why your ex is calling. Marisol felt tears sting. I just want this to stop. I want him to stop. Red looked at her for a long moment before speaking. You know what the most dangerous thing in the world is? Red asked quietly. It's not anger, or revenge, or even fear. Marisol shook her head. It's silence, Red said. Silence gives people room to rewrite what happened. Silence lets the wrong story win. She squeezed Marisol's hand. You've been quiet long enough. Just then, the dorm doors clanged open, and an officer stepped inside. Vega, he called. Pack up. Marisol froze. Pack up. Classification office wants you, he said. Transfer. Review. Red sat up straighter. A transfer? To where? Don't know, the officer muttered. I was just told to bring her. He stepped out again, waiting. Marisol turned to Red, panic rising. Why would they transfer me? I didn't ask for one. I didn't do anything. Red grabbed her shoulders firmly. Listen to me, she said. You cannot go anywhere in this place without someone knowing why. Something is happening behind the scenes. I'm scared, Marisol whispered. Red nodded. Good. Fear keeps you alert. But it doesn't get the last word. She pushed the small plastic bin toward Marisol. Pack. Then go see what they want. And whatever they ask you, tell the truth. All of it. This is your one chance to put the story back in your own hands. Marisol stood, wiping her eyes, and slowly began packing her things. When she reached the doorway, Red called after her. And Vega. Marisol turned. No matter what happens, Red said, you're not alone in here. Not anymore. Marisol managed a small, shaky nod. Then she stepped through the doors, following the officer down the long hallway, toward a transfer meeting she hadn't requested, a truth she hadn't told, and a past that finally refused to stay buried.